The rain hammered against the coffee shop window like it was trying to break through, each drop a tiny fist demanding entry. Sarah pressed her forehead against the cold glass, watching the world blur into watercolor streaks of gray and amber. Inside her chest, something felt similarly blurred, undefined, heavy, like she'd forgotten how to be whole. It had been 3 months since the funeral. 3 months since she'd stood beside an open grave and realized that kindness was supposed to matter, that her mother had spent 62 years proving it mattered. And yet Sarah couldn't remember the last time she'd done anything that wasn't just for herself. The guilt sat in her stomach like stones. She didn't notice the old woman at first. That's what shame does. It turns you inward until the rest of humanity becomes wallpaper. But then there was a sound, a soft whimper that cut through the espresso, machine's hiss and the indie music, crackling from overhead speakers. Sarah turned and saw her, small, maybe 75, with silver hair plastered to her skull and a soaked cardigan clinging to her frame. She stood just inside the doorway, dripping onto the wooden floor, her eyes scanning the crowded tables with something that looked like panic. "Ma'am?" The barista's voice carried irritation disguised as concern. "Can I help you with something?" The woman's hands trembled as she patted her pockets, her bag, her sodden sleeves. "My wallet," she whispered, though Sarah could hear her perfectly from 15 feet away. "I thought I had my wallet." Sarah watched the barista's face shift through expressions. Annoyance, pity, professional courtesy. She knew what came next. Everyone in that coffee shop knew what came next. The barista would smile tightly, suggest the woman try coming back another time, maybe imply that she should leave before she made more of a mess. It was the same small cruelty Sarah had witnessed 1,000 times, had participated in through her silence 1,000 times more. But then Sarah's mother's voice echoed in her head, clear as church bells. "Baby girl!" Kindness isn't about the big moments. It's about the small ones, the ones nobody's watching, the ones that don't make you feel like a hero. Before she could overthink it, Sarah stood up. Her legs carried her across the coffee shop like they belonged to someone braver. "Excuse me," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "I'll get her order." "Whatever she wants." The old woman's eyes filled with tears so quickly it startled. "Sarah, you don't have to—" "I know," Sarah said, and she found herself smiling, really smiling for the first time in months. "But I want to. Please, let me." The woman ordered a small chai latte and a blueberry muffin, apologizing 3 times for the expense, which totaled $7. Sarah paid and guided her to a table, helped her out of the dripping cardigan, and draped it over a nearby chair. As they sat down, the woman introduced herself as Margaret, and within minutes, Sarah learned that Margaret was a retired teacher, that she'd lost her husband last year, that she'd been riding the bus all morning trying to visit her daughter across town, but had gotten confused about the route. "I had money this morning," Margaret said, her voice fragile. "I know I did. I put $20 in my wallet before I left, but now it's gone and I can't remember." She pressed her fingers to her temples. "I can't remember if I even brought the wallet, or if I left it on the counter, or if I already spent it somewhere. My mind does this now. Plays tricks." Sarah's heart cracked open. She recognized that look, the fear of losing yourself, of becoming unreliable, of burdening the people you love. She'd seen it in her mother's eyes during those final months when the cancer had stolen more than just her strength. "Can I call your daughter for you?" Sarah asked. "Give you a ride, maybe?" Margaret shook her head quickly. "Oh, no, dear. She doesn't even know I left the house. She thinks I'm unsafe to go out alone now. She might be right." A tear escaped down her weathered cheek. "But I feel so trapped sometimes, you understand? Like I'm disappearing and nobody sees me anymore. I'm just this problem that needs managing." Sarah understood more than she could articulate. She pulled out her phone. "What if we don't call your daughter just yet? What if we figure this out together first? Would that be okay?" For the next 2 hours, Sarah's carefully constructed walls of self-involvement crumbled completely. She sat with Margaret and listened, really listened, as the older woman talked about her classroom of 3rd graders, her 50-year marriage, her daughter who meant well but had forgotten how to see her mother as a person rather than a responsibility. Sarah shared about her own mother, about the regret that had been eating her alive, about how she'd been so busy building her career and her Instagram-perfect life that she'd forgotten to just be present. "I kept thinking I'd have more time," Sarah admitted, surprised by her own honesty. "I'd visit her next month, call her next week, and then suddenly there was no more time, and I realized I'd missed all these opportunities to just be kind, to just show up." Margaret reached across the table and took Sarah's hand. Her skin was papery and warm. "But you're showing up now. For a stranger. That counts for something." When the rain finally eased, Sarah drove Margaret home in her pristine BMW that suddenly seemed absurdly extravagant. They took the scenic route, and Margaret pointed out landmarks from her life, the school where she'd taught for 30 years, the church where she'd married Robert, the park where her daughter had learned to ride a bike. Each story was a gift, and Sarah received them like prayers. At Margaret's house, Sarah walked her to the door and waited while she searched for her keys. That's when Sarah noticed the wallet sitting on the porch swing, partially hidden under a newspaper. "Margaret," she said, gently picking it up. "Is this yours?" Margaret's face transformed, with relief and then immediately crumpled with embarrassment. "Oh, God. I must have set it down this morning when I was trying to lock up. I am losing my mind." "You're not," Sarah said firmly. "You're just human. We all forget things. Just last week, I drove to work with my coffee mug on the car roof. Found it shattered in my driveway that evening." She wasn't sure if this was true, but it felt true enough. Margaret laughed, and the sound was like sunlight breaking through clouds. She hugged Sarah then, fierce and grateful, and whispered, "Thank you for seeing me today. Thank you for treating me like I matter." As Sarah drove away, something fundamental had shifted inside her. She thought about her mother's funeral, about all those people who'd told stories of small kindnesses. "My mother helped me find my lost dog. My mother brought me soup when I was sick. My mother always remembered my birthday. Not grand gestures, just consistent, quiet love." Sarah pulled over and opened her phone. She scrolled through her contacts until she found her sister's number. They hadn't spoken since an argument about their mother's estate 3 months ago. Sarah took a breath and typed, "I'm sorry I've been so focused on being right. I miss you. Can we talk?" The response came within seconds. "I miss you too. Yes, please." That evening, Sarah volunteered at the homeless shelter her mother had supported for decades. She served meals, and she listened to stories, and she looked people in the eyes and saw them, really saw them. She thought about Margaret and her mother and every person she'd ever walked past without noticing. She thought about how easy it was to be kind and how tragic it was that she'd convinced herself she was too busy, too important, too something. Over the following weeks, Sarah's life didn't transform into something unrecognizable. She didn't quit her job or sell all her possessions or move to a monastery. But she started small. She learned her barista's name and asked about his day. She called her sister every Sunday. She visited Margaret 3 times. And on the 3rd visit, she met Margaret's daughter, who cried and thanked Sarah for giving her mother a day of dignity and adventure. The truth settled into Sarah's bones slowly, the way important truths do. Kindness wasn't a grand performance. It wasn't posting about charity work on social media or writing a check to feel less guilty. It was the unglamorous choice to pay attention, to show up, to see the humanity in every person you encountered and honor it with your presence. 6 months after that rainy afternoon, Sarah stood at her mother's grave again. This time she brought fresh flowers and stories of the small kindnesses she was learning to offer the world. "I think I finally understand what you were trying to teach me," she said to the headstone. "It's not about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about choosing to see people." The wind picked up, scattering leaves across the cemetery, and Sarah could almost hear her mother's voice in it. "That's my girl. Now keep going." And she did.